Welcome to the first episode of You and Me and GovCoE, building AI within your local government agency. I'm Pete Carr, an experienced city manager and co-founder of GovCoE. With the launch happening right now, October of 2025, we wanted to start sharing these important conversations. Joining me today is my co-founder and our Chief Technology Officer, Jason Taylor.
I'm glad to be here, Pete.
Hey, we're thrilled to kick off our series by talking with someone who's already in the trenches, Johnny Terfehr, the Director of Community Safety and Technology for the city of Eastvale, California. Johnny, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Pete. I'm excited to have this chat. I love talking about things technology.
Great. Hey, Johnny, before we dive into the technology, let's start with the people. Give our listeners a highlight reel of your career in local government that brought you to this role in Eastvale.
Thank you for that. I started out in the private sector, worked many years in there in contracting and mainly in intrusion and fire alarm systems in a lot of commercial properties. And then I transitioned into government in 2002. So we're coming up on 25 years now. I worked for the city of Palm Desert for 18 years, worked up to a management analyst, and then an opportunity opened up in Eastvale to become a manager. So I did that move, and that ultimately turned into a director job. Because of some technological implementations that I was able to make happen in my role as a manager and a director, the city manager thought it'd be a good idea to reward me with IT. So now I'm stuck with that. I mean, I love that. I have that. And it's really exciting because I do love technology. I do love finding ways to improve efficiencies and to help people get their jobs done more easily by the use of technology. To me, that is a win. And that's what drives me to get up and go to government and work for government every day, is to kind of make things easier for people to get the job done and ultimately serve the public better.
Awesome. Hey, now paint a picture of the city for us. For the city managers listening, what's the environment like in Eastvale? What are the key services you're providing? Kind of like, what are the hot button issues that keep your team busy?
We are a small city and a new city, unusual in California. There's probably only one or two other cities that is younger than Eastvale. We're only 15 years old. We incorporated in 2010. And we are a contract city. So we utilize the Riverside County Sheriff's Department, Cal Fire, Health Department, a lot of county agencies to do the things you might normally see in a larger city like Los Angeles. But there's lots of other cities like us that contract. We do provide in-house public works services, building and safety, code enforcement, planning, those typical types of things that you see. What's a hot button right now? I mean, it changes all the time. As you know, being a city manager, there's an ebb and flow. We're building a civic center. We don't have one right now. We are housed in a storefront in a shopping center. So if you come to the city of Eastvale, you can walk across the street and go to AAA or go to Chipotle or Buffalo Wild Wings. It's all within 10 feet. So we're building a civic center, which will have a 50,000 square foot city hall, roughly 24,000 square foot police station, and a 20,000 square foot library with a 5,000 square foot innovation center, which is an exciting touch. That broke ground in July, and it's been on our minds for 2 years in the planning, and it's all we can talk about just about every day, trying to get all the things in line that have to happen to make that project work. In addition, there's 2,500 homes being built around that project, required by RENA, the California Housing. And then there's going to be some commercial in there as well. So that's kind of what is dominating most of our council meetings and most of the conversations right now. But it's typical of any city. You have complaints about, potholes and, too many houses being built or whatever the issue is. We get the same thing in the city of Eastvale.
Well, that's great. Thanks for sharing that context, Johnny. Now, from a technologist perspective, city government can obviously have some unique pressures. What are some of the specific operational or budget constraints that in Eastvale that someone from private tech might not immediately understand?
That's a great question. And, money is a scarcity. It's not something we just have abundance of. And unlike the private sector, we can't really make more. We can ask the voters to vote for that, and they often won't because they're tired of it, right? So we have to make do with the money we have. With that being said, uh, you have to prioritize what are the most important issues for your residents, and you have to get feedback from them and figure out what they want you to spend money on. It's not always technology. Sometimes it's potholes. Sometimes it's fixing a road that is too narrow or putting a stop sign up. So selling technology to the public can be challenging. What's different and unique about Eastvale, and that I really love, is we're a very diverse community with a young population, a well-educated population. I believe our average is something like a bachelor's degree. It's crazy, and also a population that makes pretty good money. Over $100,000 is the median. So with all of that, they also, I think our residents kind of respect that technology can really help move things forward. It can help make things more efficient, and so they're more open to that.
Nice.
Well, let's get right to it. We heard Eastvale is taking a remarkably progressive approach to AI. In a field where many cities are hesitant, you're moving forward. What was the catalyst? Was there a specific problem or like a eureka moment that made you say, we need to look at AI?
I don't know if there's a eureka moment, but it's a constant issue in our city. We don't have a huge staff. We are very small compared to cities our size. We have 70,000 residents, and I think we have about 60 something employees. And so we operate on a fairly small staff. So with that in mind, we're always looking for efficiencies. It's kind of built into our culture here in the city of Eastvale, to find ways to do things in the most efficient way. So that makes technology a little easier to sell here. It's always challenging, with people and change and being a change agent. But I think we have it a little bit easier because of the nature of where we're at. We've got to get a lot of things done, and we've only got so many hands. So what can we do to make that easier?
Got it. Now, when you first said AI or artificial intelligence to your team, what did that mean in practical terms? Were you thinking chatbots or data analysis or process automation? How did you define the very first step to keep it from being too overwhelming? Because there's a lot to it.
And that was my concern. And so what I wanted was a chatbot. And I spent a bunch of time looking for chatbots, and it was fairly new a couple of years ago, and ultimately did find one. And it worked out great. And so we added that to our website. We started feeding it with knowledge and pointing it in different resources so that it would have answers when people made queries into it. And that gave us that little step up to say, hey, look, here's one thing we could do with AI that really is ringing the phone less and taking up less staff time. That's a huge selling point to your city council. Like, okay, yeah, we get that. That's something that can really help. It doesn't answer every question perfectly. It doesn't solve all the problems, but it helps a lot. And it helps a lot with the very run-of-the-mill routine stuff that you get over and over again. That's where it really kicks in.
Yeah. So, I mean, you talk about the phone ringing less. What are some of the tangible impacts that you've seen from implementing that chatbot?
I ran a report recently and showed it to council, and I think we had 2,500 questions answered by our chatbot over the last year and a couple months. So we, obviously sometimes people ask more than one question, but we anticipate that that's a couple thousand people that didn't have to call City Hall.
Right.
That's pretty tangible right there. And we can see the responses too. So we can see if the chatbot is answering correctly and if they were satisfied. And in most cases they were. Sometimes it doesn't answer the question right and the person becomes frustrated. So then we try to go in and educate the AI a little better so that next time it can do a better job. But it helped a lot of people so that they didn't have to call during city business hours and try to wait on the phone to speak to a staff member.
Right. So what was your employees of the city, what was their kind of response to this chatbot? I mean, you've got right now 2,500 questions that are being answered. How do they feel about it? Do they feel like it's a risk to their job? Do they feel like it's helpful in kind of reducing some of the mundanity of their positions?
I think it's helpful in reducing the phone calls, which we get a lot of. And so that enables them to work on more higher priority things than just sitting there and answering the phone. We do have a lot of work to do here, and that's the goal of it. I don't think anybody fears in Eastvale losing their job at this point in time. But there's that fear that everybody has. I was at a conference and I want to share it. I was at a conference in Orlando, I believe, and we were talking about AI. And one of the presenters said, "You're not going to lose your job to AI. You're going to lose your job to someone using AI."
Yeah.
And it's a really poignant point. And it says, look, uh, this can really help you. This can help you do your job better. Will there be some people that lose their jobs to AI? I don't think it can be avoided, but I think that was true when cars were invented and blacksmiths went out of a job. I mean, it's the nature of technology as it progresses. What we want to do in Eastvale is empower our employees to be able to be as efficient as they can. And so back to your earlier question, that was the first step, was the CityBot thing.
Right.
We made it fun. So we had a contest about what the character would be, what it would look like, how it would act. And we're an old dairy community. So it ended up being a cow, a really cute, techie looking cow. If you go to the eastvaleca.gov website, you can see our little cow and you can interact with her. And her name is Ava, which stands for Eastvale Virtual Assistant.
Mm.
That was also the employees who came up with that. So they were very much involved in designing this thing and feeding us the type of information it needed. So we reached out to them. And I think this is a key point, is always engaging with that frontline staff about the stuff that you're doing. We said, what are the most common questions you get every single day on the phone? What are those questions? Let's get those things programmed into that system first. And that made it useful to them. They could see the value in it right away.
Yeah, well, I can imagine if people like employees are contributing to it, like that's a lot less scary than something getting implemented or imposed on them. So I think that's a great approach, is getting people involved, making sure that the commonly asked questions, they're having input. These are the commonly asked questions so that they know what it's actually doing, rather than it being kind of this imposed black box on them. So I think that's a great approach.
Yes, and that's the one we took. And it's what we're taking with AI virtual or AI assistants. So now we're kind of moving towards the direction of things like ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot. And we're engaging with a smaller group of the employees to start talking about how can we use that in the city? How will we deploy that? And then we're just right at the beginning of that right now.
Oh, that's great.
I love the way you've worked with frontline staff. That's key. So many of my former colleagues in city manager offices have the mindset, oh no, what's AI going to do to us? How can I mitigate the damage of this thing? How did you and your leadership at Eastvale, how did you guys foster that more positive, hey, we can do this culture?
And that's it. I was just touching on that. Like we're kind of dipping our toe in slowly and carefully. The first thing we did several months ago, maybe even as much as a year ago, is developed a policy around AI. What is our policy going to be? And that's kind of a working document, because AI is changing so fast that your policy has to be able to update with that.
Yeah, for sure.
Then I started researching which particular platform do we want to use, or do we want to use multiple platforms? How do we want to integrate that into our city processes? How do we want to track it? How do we want to add security to it? And that took me several months of research and going to conferences and talking to different groups to kind of get a feel for what was available out there and what we could do. And then we launched it literally just about 3-4 weeks ago, officially, where we're meeting with a small group of people who've been enabled on, we've chosen Copilot mainly because we're a Microsoft 365 organization. I'm not saying Copilot's the best, I'm saying it's the best for us.
Right.
Because we can add the security to it really quickly. We can do the tracking really easily. Will we stay with it? Will it be our long-term goal? I don't know. Right now, we're just wanting to get some of the benefit from it. And so those 7 to 10 people of our 70 employees are out there right now testing it on their processes that they do every day. They're looking for ways to implement it into their work. I got a spreadsheet. How can I use AI to make my spreadsheet better and give me better data? I have a Word document I need to send out, or a staff report. I want some background that, and we've taken, this was a really tricky one. So for anybody out there that's working on this, if you have all your council agendas in Laserfish, it is not easy to make that available to Copilot in its whole form. You can pull one out there and drop it in, no problem. But what if you want every single council agenda for the last 15 years, which is what I want, right?
Right.
Available to the AI? That is not an easy task. So we've been working on solutions for that as well. And we found a couple of solutions involving converting files and moving them to SharePoint, things like that. So all of that stuff is in process, and we're just taking it step by step. And then we meet again with the team. We go, what did you learn? Let's have some prompt conversations. What did you prompt? What did you get back? How can we make better prompts? That's a number one thing you got to train your staff when they start using AI is how to prompt, because they might go in there and just ask a question very simple, and they'll get a simple response. They're like, well, this is useless. And then when you teach them the elements of a good prompt and how that can really give you a better response, they get it and they start to learn. And we did one in our training a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, nice. Can I just ask a follow-up question on that one?
Yeah.
So in addition to like prompting, like the structure of the prompts, one of the things that I found is creating the appropriate context is super helpful. Like, what are their roles? What are their goals? What is their objective? And almost having like a role-based set of guidance when they prompt. And then that automatically gets incorporated into the prompt. So they're not having to recreate or that role every time. Have you found something similar, or how have you approached the prompting and the context for your users?
That's great. And I love the idea. I think the agents function in Copilot is something similar to that. When you create
Yeah,
it, you're telling it what kind of context you're looking for.
yeah,
Uh, what we did in that initial class was just teach them how to prompt, and context was part of that. We had 4 basic points that you had to have in your prompt, and context was definitely it. You also wanted to tell what was the outcome you were looking for. What's the context, as much information and background as you can get. What do you want it to look like? So there's several different elements of that. But I love that, and I think that's kind of the agent thing. But I'm not. You guys can tell me. I'm not
yeah,
100% sure. I'm a little confused about the whole
yeah.
agent. You know.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think it's actually very similar to ChatGPT's custom GPT
Yeah.
or Gemini's gems. It's the same thing where you can upload files, you can provide it a longer context about the roles, about the programs. I've actually done that with other people where I've set them up with an assistant for their role, and we spend a lot of time talking about what is their role, what is their goal, what are the mechanisms that they communicate on, what are common prompts. That's another one that's like super helpful,
Yeah.
especially if you're sharing that with the team. Like, what are the common prompts in operations or accounting or whatever the case may be. So yeah, I think that agent capability really is where you start to get the power, because you create all this context. These large language models, they're very generic. Like, it doesn't know it doesn't know you, it doesn't know your organization, it doesn't know your role. And so that additional context is a great way of kind of adding that in as the prompt context in order to really get the value out of it that you're hoping people can. So that's great.
Yeah, I like that. So that's something we'll kind of dive into as we go forward. I anticipate kind of a 3 to 6 month period where I work with this team to come
Yep.
up with a lot of great use case scenarios that they can then share out to their coworkers. Say, hey, look, here's what I was able to do with AI, and it saved me, half a day's worth of work. That's
Right.
the kind of stuff I want to be able to share with the team.
Awesome. Thanks, Johnny.
Getting that right mindset that Eastvale has and its executive team and with the staff, that's one thing. But getting the budget and the political buy-in can be another. As a former city manager, I know that can be the real challenge sometimes. How did you guys sell this concept to your city council? And maybe did you have any reluctant department heads?
I think I do. I think I do have some department heads that might see AI as a job taker, or as something that is not really worth the effort of what you might have to put into it compared to what you get out of it. So that can be challenging, and that's just taking your time and being able to show those results. When I can take this team, and this team includes people from those departments, and bring back some tangible results of, hey, here's some things we were able to accomplish, I think I can win those folks over. As far as our council goes, as I shared with you earlier, our demographic here, it's not a hard sell for me. I went up before them a couple of weeks ago and gave them a whole presentation and asked for their input, and they said, no, it sounds great, full speed ahead. And now I didn't attach a number to that yet because we're at a stage where I can absorb it in my budget. It's not very much.
Yeah.
But as we move forward, there is going to be a cost, and that could be a bigger challenge. I don't know what that cost will be. I don't see it as being huge, but I see it as being a significant cost that we'll have to have that conversation at some point.
Yeah. Now, with large language models, one of the things that we're hearing, one of the things that people are concerned about are hallucinations. If you have a chat bot and you're providing a response to a constituent, how do you create the confidence both to the constituent as well as to your internal staff that it is actually providing a good response?
That's such a great point. And there's a second issue with AI that I've recently learned, and that's that it also has amnesia. So when you're talking to AI and you are in a chat, it doesn't remember what you talked about just a little while ago, unless you remind it, and then it's oh yeah, you did say that. It's kind of a funny thing that I've noticed. But to the other point of the hallucinations, we did incorporate that into our policy. So in our policy, it says number one that they're not 100% accurate. Employees are required to confirm all of the information that comes out of AI generated content. They are responsible for the AI generated content. So they can't say, oh, AI did it. They can't do that. This is your stuff. You're using AI to help you to get there quicker, to do research, but it's your product and you're responsible for it. And that way the employee is not absolved of that. They still got to make sure. And what's nice about most chat platforms, definitely Copilot, is it gives you the sources. So you can easily, it does the research for you. You go get the research and verify that that's what it actually says.
Yeah. And I think that what we're starting to see is when there's an over reliance on AI. I don't know if you saw the news story, but there was a large consulting firm that was doing some work for a government entity and including some references to judicial cases. The large language model hallucinated that. Like this entity paid a fairly significant amount of money for this report. And it became apparent that somebody had typed in something into a chatbot, gotten stuff back, hadn't verified it, and it was a big reputation downtick for that consulting firm. So that's one of the things that we tell people as well. You're responsible for everything that goes out from it. It's there to help you. It's there to be an assistant. But at the end of the day, you have to be responsible for what you deliver and who you deliver it to.
100%. And that is what our policy requires. So when we had our meeting a couple of weeks ago, the whole first half of that meeting was about the policy and about that accountability. And even that if you're going to have, now I don't know how this will play out and we could change it in the future, but for right now, if you provide any AI generated content to the public or internally, you have to identify that that's where it came from.
Yeah.
That has to be in there somehow. I created the PowerPoint for council announcing the AI program with AI. I used AI. So I had a big, stamp that came down and said AI generated on top of the PowerPoint. They got it. But the point is there. It's like you do need to identify that you did this with AI. Now, if you're doing research and then you create your own content from that research and you verified it, you don't really have to. But if you're going to just take a couple paragraphs out and plop it in, you need to identify that was AI generated.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people just want to know was this AI generated or not? And one of the things that I point out at the bottom of every large language model, Copilot, ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, they all say it can be wrong. Double check the information. And that is in the same way that people can be fallible. Like these things can be fallible. It's not it's not kind of hard and fast. It's not going out. It's not like a spreadsheet or a database where you're going and querying a very discrete set of information. It's kind of munging together lots of information and returning that back. But yeah, I think that the more transparency that there is, if people know, hey, if this is AI generated, I'm going to know that it's AI generated. And so I can kind of, discount the credibility appropriately. But I think that's a very, very important part of it for sure.
And I think the more you use it, you'll be able to detect it on your own. The more you use AI, and then I have an email from a resident right now. I'm going, that's loaded with AI right there. And I'm going to probably have a co-pilot take a look at it and give me some suggestions for.
Right. Right. Absolutely. It's like every time I hear deep dive, it's like I know exactly where it came from. It wasn't from a person. Or like delve. Those are two of the key ones that always make me chuckle.
Yeah.
Johnny, you've mentioned some really critical policies that are guardrails for you in using AI responsibly and being responsible for it. Are there any other kind of like critical policies and guardrails that you want to mention?
We did have each employee has to sign that, so they acknowledge it. We did require training so that they could go in and kind of learn how large language models work, how machine learning works, and then how these prompts and everything can benefit the employee. That was part of it. I think those are the major points in our policy. Our city attorney put in there that we cannot use it for legal advice. I get that, so that makes sense. So that's another one of those that's in there. But yeah, I think those are kind of the major guardrails that we have in there. I'd have to go look at it to see if there's anything I missed.
Did you start with a blank sheet of paper, or did you use one of the templates that's available for cities?
For the policy?
Yes.
I have to be truthful in that I didn't have anything to do with that policy because IT wasn't in my department yet. So it was done before I got IT. Mm-hmm. And so I inherited the policy, and I really don't know who created it. I think it was done. Now it's coming to me. We have a risk manager. We're in PERMA, and I believe it came from PERMA.
Okay. There's places like ICMA that have templates just for cities.
Okay, great.
I guess I would imagine that Eastvale might even be willing to make it available to cities that want to follow.
Yeah, it's probably already on our Laserfish. I mean, it's public information, but if anybody ever wants it, I'm happy to share it.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Well, a big question for agencies is whether to build this expertise in-house or buy it. Jason often highlights the benefits of getting third-party advice. What was Eastvale's experience in this way? Like, did Eastvale have unusual advantages in getting its head start?
Great question. I think if you don't have a champion that for AI and for technology, it's going to be difficult. You're probably going to need some outside help. If you're a city manager and you don't have a director of technology who's a total computer geek to go out and champion this for you, then you may need to find someone who can come and help you do this and get it implemented in your city, because you do have to overcome staff's objections. You have to help them understand that it's going to be a benefit to them and it's not going to really harm them. And that takes a champion. It takes an individual who can go do that. I just happen to be the kind of geek that loves that stuff and loves technology, so I was willing to do it. So maybe that's the advantage Eastvale had. If it was not for me being here, I think they would have hired a consultant to come in and make this happen.
So one question I have, is there a stated vision of how Eastvale wants to use AI in the long term?
Yeah, it was in the PowerPoint that I give council, and I just to broadly sum it up is responsible use of AI to benefit our community. That's really the goal. Like, if it doesn't help make our residents' lives better, either through the permitting process or their interactions with city or getting information, then it's useless to us. And we need to use it responsibly, meaning just like what you talked about. We have to be careful of the hallucinations. We have to be responsible for the content. So those two are kind of the pillars. Is it benefiting the community, and are we using it responsibly?
Right.
Well, I imagine we've got some city managers listening who are feeling like, wow, my community might not be as sophisticated or as Eastvale. My city council might have a little different perspective. My staff might be on a little different page than Eastvale is. How can I get caught up? Because I need to improve services. I need to be more efficient, but I need to do that without spending a bunch more money. How can we get caught up to Eastvale?
Well, like I said, if you don't have that talent internally that you can lean on, then I would go find a consultant, somebody who, and I'm I'm not trying to avoid the elephant in the room. That consultant could be you guys. Somebody who has that expertise, who has that understanding of where the guardrails need to be. I'll put my hands in the picture here, but also the extreme importance of being able to sell this to those decision makers and to the staff, because you can have all the great ideas in the world, but if staff doesn't buy in on it, you're going to have a hard time getting it implemented. So you need people to be able to do that, and that's where you're going to have to focus your efforts. It's going to happen without you. It's a wave. You should think of yourself as standing on a beach and a 10-foot wave is hanging over the top of your head. That's AI. So you really don't have much time to think about it. You need to act right now.
That's a great point, Johnny, because one of the things that we're seeing is people are becoming more and more aware of AI. And some organizations, they have these very restrictive policies. They block all the major websites, large language model websites, and they'll say something like, well, we have a policy against the use of AI. Everybody has a phone. Lots of people have different types of devices that aren't work devices. Like, there is no way to stop this, obviously beyond a policy. Like, one of the examples I have is I was talking with a consultant, and I asked them what AI tools they used on a project. And I knew that there were some internal tools that were available. And I said, well, did you use your internal tools? And she said, yeah, but they weren't very good. So I just used my own ChatGPT subscription. And I think that is happening a lot.
Absolutely.
It's very important to provide people good tools, because if they know that something is out there that's like way better, that will help them, and what they get is a poor quality or a hobbled version of a large language model, like, they will naturally gravitate towards that. And that's one of the things that I appreciate about what you're doing, is that you're ahead of the curve on this. Lots of people are, starting to figure out what it's for, but you're being proactive in coming up with a sanction tool, deciding on a policy, having a clear vision, and somebody to advocate for it, I think is a remarkable step forward.
And just to go along with that, it's important, as I'm training that first core group of employees, for them to understand how Copilot works compared to ChatGPT. What differences are they going to see?
Yeah.
While ChatGPT may seem to work better, it doesn't have some of the security controls that we can implement on Copilot, which we need as an organization. It also doesn't have our knowledge base that we can pull into it. And so Copilot is going to be able to see, like, all those council agendas that I talked about, where ChatGPT doesn't have that information. So there's pros and cons to the different platforms, and getting the employees on your side to help. And I even told them that. I said, if you're trying something on Copilot and it's not working, go try it on ChatGPT, report that back to me. Let me fix it so that Copilot does work for you.
That's great. Do you have a mechanism other than they just send you an email if they run up against that scenario?
Just email is all for now, because there's not that many of them. But I can see a point where we put it in our IT department tickets. Can people just create a ticket? But even those here at our city, we do via email. We just send an email to the ticket machine and it creates a ticket. So email is easy for everybody. They know how to cut and paste. They don't have to learn anything new. It's just simple.
Lowest common denominator.
Yes.
Johnny, before we get to our final question about mankind, any other thoughts, points you wanted to make? Anything we didn't ask you about that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, the exciting factor. You were talking about city managers right now who might be a little nervous about this or wondering what they should be doing. This is exciting stuff. It seems scary, and it is, and we've all seen Terminator in the movies and all that stuff. But it's similar to when the internet became ubiquitous, right? And all of a sudden we had it everywhere, and then it started to connect the world. And look at the things that we've been able to accomplish in the world as a result of that kind of connection. And while sometimes people complain about how the world is, science has shown that on the whole, most human beings are in a better place than they were 100 years ago, right? So this technology is benefiting humankind. Get behind it. Get behind it and see it, how it can help your organization, even if it's just in a small way. I promise you, there's people back in some cubicle somewhere cranking out some numbers and spending hours to do something that AI could do in minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. I the I think that one of the things that also is very important is the investment that you're making. This is going to be a skill for the future. And by your investing in people and investing in these skills, you're really helping them, take 3 steps forward in what their career is. There's a lot of value in that. And like from the outside, I appreciate an organization that has those values that's willing to make that investment in those people because that will pay dividends, for the rest of their career. So that's awesome.
Yeah, 100%. And I really would stress probably the two biggest lessons I've learned is prompt training is huge. When you learn how to prompt an AI platform, whatever it is, you just get a much better result. And then just an understanding of the limitations. It's not perfect because you're going to start interacting with it and go, oh my God, this is amazing. I can't believe you can
Yeah.
do this. And then all of a sudden you're going to find that hallucination or that problem. Just be wary that it's not perfect yet. Will it
Yeah.
ever be? I don't know, but it's definitely a pretty neat technology.
Yeah. And like you said, it's changing so quickly. Um, uh, ChatGPT just came out with Sora 2 for video generation. They came out with ChatGPT 5 not long ago. Gemini 3 is probably going to be coming out shortly. Claude came out with Sonnet 4.5. It seems like every 3 to 6 months there are some significant advancements, and I think by your giving your organization and your people that foundation, like that's a great step forward because it is moving at lightning speed. Like I've never seen, like I went through the .com boom and everybody thought, oh, this is moving so fast. Like you haven't seen anything yet compared to what it's doing and how quickly it's moving. So it's great that you're offering that foundation in a very fast moving domain.
Yeah, and you've got to be flexible, and that's why I said our policy is even flexible. We got to change with the times, and it's not going to be an annual review. It's going to be a monthly review.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's great.
Well, this has been incredibly insightful. Hey, I want to close our conversation, Johnny, with the same profound question you asked me when we first spoke. Is AI going to help or hurt mankind?
I love that question, and I joke all the time that once it becomes self-aware, we're doomed. We're really doomed. Just like in the movie Terminator, it became self-aware on whatever date, right? And that was the end of mankind. But it is a joke. I believe in the benevolence of computers, right? And Isaac Asimov and the first rules of robots. So all that stuff, I think computers, if the computer became so intelligent they could interact with us on the same level that we humans can, which I don't even know if is possible, but some of the titans of the industry think they don't say it's possible, but they say it's not impossible. They can't say it's not impossible. So could you be talking to an intellect that's just as intelligent as the three of us or anybody else that we talk to? It's possible, according to the titans of the industry that created machine learning years ago. So with that in mind, I think it's going to help mankind. I think computers are ultimately very logical. And a lot of the stuff we've done to harm ourselves over the years has been emotional decisions. So if we have computers being a little more Spock-like, maybe we'll have a better outcome.
Yeah. Well, Jason, as the person who's building this tech for GovCoE, what's your take on that same question? Help or hurt?
Well, I think in the short term, it's definitely a lot of help. But as Johnny said, you have to know how the tools work. If you are under reliant on them, you're not going to maximize what the outcome is. So I would say in the short term, it's definitely helpful. One of the things, for example, that I've noticed is, so I have spent in my career a lot of time in Excel. And the number of times I've gotten wrapped around the axles of a minutia of a particular like formula, it's like, this is taking way too long. I found way too much of my career spent on that detail. Now, was it important to get the output? Yeah. But now I feel like I have a much better tool set for taking care of a lot of the minutia. And I find that my questions start to change from how do I do this to what is the outcome that I'm looking for? it's a much more executive, it's a much more high level view. And I find I don't get as wrapped around the axles about the details. I'm more focused on the outcome, the credibility of the outcome, the comprehensiveness of the outcome. And I like how I am thinking better because of these tools. Now, long term, I agree with you, Johnny. As soon as this thing becomes self-aware, what's going to happen? I don't know. I can imagine some fairly dystopian futures. However, in the near term, it's remarkable what it can do. And one of the things you said, Johnny, is it's not going to replace people. It's going to, replace people who don't use AI. So it definitely needs to be a skill set that everybody needs to learn and to figure out, like, is there an opportunity? But it definitely needs to be problem-based, not just technology for technology's sake.
Great. Well, I love the optimistic vision from both of you.
No, this was a lot of fun. I love talking about technology, and this is cutting edge right here. So it's really exciting to think about the problems we can solve. And I would like to think that some of society's most difficult, ugly problems over the years might have solutions that are generated from the creativity spurred on by AI.
And you were right there, front row seat.
Yep, exactly.
And that's our time. A huge thank you to Johnny Terfehr of the city of Eastvale, California, and to Jason Taylor, co-founder and CTO for GovCoE. GovCoE is a new tech startup firm designed to show local government agencies how they can build the power of AI from within their organizations. If you found this conversation valuable, all we ask is that you like this podcast and share it with a colleague. Next week, we'll take a closer look at the options cities and other local agencies have for adopting AI. We'll talk with a manager at the Butte Community Action Agency about their early implementation of AI. If you'd like to know more about GovCoE, visit us at GovCoE, that's GovCoE.ai. And if you have a suggestion for a local government agency we should spotlight next, please send us a note from the website. Thanks for listening to You and Me and GovCoE, building AI within your local government agency.